If you're a driven, active person who wants to reach and pursue a higher quality life with some ambition, then guess what? This podcast is for you. This is the Driven Athlete Podcast. What's up, y'all? It's man, Dr. Kyle. We got the legend himself back again, Taylor Snook, trainer at One Fitness. Welcome back. We have a lot of things that we want to unpack and talk about from last time.
Yeah, happy to be here yet again. Excited to be back on.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
We're going to go over a lot of cool new stuff and get on some tangents too, I'm sure.
Yeah, which is good. Because there was just too much to talk about last time. Like we had to, and I'm sure there'll be number 3 coming up soon.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so remind everybody again, if this is the first time listening, where you're at, what you do, your education background, where you came from.
Yeah. I'm at One Fitness over on Belvedere off of South Dixie right now. I'm originally from New Jersey, came down to Florida about 9 years ago to get my master's at UM. We've talked about that in the last episode. And then after that, stayed in Miami for about 6 years, trained CrossFit, did strength and conditioning, personal training, worked for the National Council on Strength and Fitness. So worked with a lot of personal trainers and strength coaches, getting them certified and getting them educated. And then I moved up to West Palm about 3 years ago, did a little bit of strength and conditioning, and then found kind of my spot at One Fitness, and I've been there since.
Yeah, it's a great spot.
It is. We're excited for the new season coming in right now. I know it's going to be really busy.
It's going to ramp up.
Big time.
Yeah,
Big time,
we're getting busy. You guys are going to get slammed too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
What was your degree in at UM?
Exercise physiology and fitness facility management.
So a master's in exercise physiology.
Yeah.
And fitness. Oh, gotcha. Management,
Yeah.
which is, I mean, it's great. It's awesome. Okay, so talking about last time, we wanted to dive in a little bit more about some nutritional stuff and maybe things outside of the nuts and bolts that we might consider with training and life performance and trying to enhance our results, right?
Yeah.
But things outside of that play a huge role. Sleep is definitely one of them that we got some questions and comments from last time. Tell us more about what your opinions are on that. Like, how can that help? Or what things can we do?
Yeah, I think sleep is one of those ones that we can deep dive tremendously. Everybody can through podcasts like this, but also like using kind of the toolkit that you have with the internet. There's a couple people that I always recommend to refer to when I give my clients advice on sleep, and that's Dr. Matthew Walker is like awesome. He's got incredible source material, and then Andrew Huberman. The Huberman Lab podcast is another one that I refer to sometimes. But when it comes to sleep, this is what I tell my clients is the number one thing you need to be focused on. If you have goals related to your health and fitness and your well-being, and you are not taking into account your sleep, this is you're missing a big part of it, maybe the biggest part. You can have the best nutrition, you can have a great workout plan, but if you're not sleeping adequately, you're just not gonna see the changes and the outcomes that you want. So what I often tell people is the recommended number that I think everybody hears all the time is 7 to 8 hours of sleep. That is a good spot. Some people do well with more. Some people get along pretty well with 6 sometimes. But the recommended range is on the money. 7 to 8 hours is great. But then we want to start to deep dive, like, what's the quality of your sleep? Right. Are you awake a lot throughout that sleep? Are you getting REM cycle sleep? Are you getting those deep levels of sleep where the recovery and the changes in your body occur? REM cycle and deep sleep are the 2 most important parts. That's where you're going to see the changes and the adaptations that are coming from that nutritional change you're making, that program that you're working in with your trainer. So I have a couple ways that I kind of work on my sleep. My sleep used to not be very good. It was actually pretty horrific. And I started doing a couple things. One was I started going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time.
So routine.
Yes.
Consistent, like expectations of your body.
100%.
Yeah.
You just like anything else in this life, we regiment when we eat, but people don't think to regiment when you sleep. And it's a huge part of it because it actually kind of gets your body into the correct rhythm. And syncs up your circadian rhythm to make sure that you're getting good quality sleep. So you're going to notice right away if you kind of start going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time. Not saying that's easy for everybody, but if you do that, you're going to notice that you're going to wake up feeling a little more energetic and you're going to feel a little bit more well rested.
Right.
So that's the first one. See if you can kind of get yourself into a routine. For me, it's 9:30 at night. I'm usually in bed and I'm waking up at 6:30. It's become very easy now that I have a 4-month-old puppy. So that's he definitely keeps me on track in the morning. So routine,
just like kids.
Yeah, just like kids.
Like, man, it's got to be militant. I have a mentor that said the same, very similar things, you know, because kids definitely puppies throw things for, you know, out the window, like, and being super scheduled and diligent with that can set it up greatly for success as best as possible. And then it can like create a lot of fires afterward, if not, you know.
Absolutely.
And I've definitely noticed that. But anyway, a mentor of mine was like, you know, be militant with like the structure and the schedule of like hard stop 9:29, we are going into the room, you know. I've also found for myself with that too, like if I read before I go to sleep versus scrolling, dude, it's way different. Oh, and I'm like, gosh, dang it. Like everyone was right, you know.
Everything you, like the funny part about sleep is that everything you read or you see on Instagram is 1,000% accurate most of the time. Get off your phone 20 to 30 minutes before you go to bed. If you can read, even better, because it's going to kind of slow you down and get you ready to go to bed. If you can meditate, that's going to be great. Breathing exercises. There are so many different things that you can throw into the mix here that are going to make a difference. It's not that you need to hit all of these markers, but if you can start to add them in one by one, you're going to see a huge increase, not only in the quality of your sleep, a massive improvement, but also maybe even the duration. For me, it was that I would wake up a lot in the middle of the night and it would be hard to get back to sleep, or it was hard to get to sleep in general. And when I tell you I've been a mad scientist about this, I've taken different supplements for it, like magnesium biglycinate. I've taken theanine, I'm probably saying that wrong, melatonin. And sometimes those things have worked for me, sometimes they haven't. It's something you can try out for yourself. I just started doing the mouth tape like 3 days ago, legitimately.
You're not the only person I've heard that.
It is
great results.
It's awesome. I know, unfortunately, I like to sleep on my back mostly through the night, and I will snore from doing that. And there are a lot of studies that are becoming more prevalent showing that if you're snoring at night, not only are you more likely to actually head towards sleep apnea or suffer the effects of sleep apnea later in life, but you're also going to wake up less energetic. You're not going to get as good quality sleep. I threw that mouth tape on the last 3 nights and it has been wild.
Oh, so this is really recent.
Oh, this is 3 nights ago.
Wow.
And I got it, a little shout out to this company called Hostage Tape. I do think that there are cheaper ways you can do this, but I just figured
Hostage Tape.
Yeah, it's
intense.
Kind of an intense name, but it's essentially KT tape.
Yeah.
It's KT tape. You place it over your mouth. It sounds scarier than it is. Once it's on your mouth, you're like, this isn't a big deal. But man, it forces you to breathe through your nose. Yeah. Crazy. Fall asleep so much faster.
Have you tried the nasal strip tape too?
I haven't tried those yet. That might be next for me.
You could do both.
Yeah,
I've heard good results with that. Yeah, all taped up. Like, what is this monster? But I've heard great things about the mouth tape. As appropriate, like definitely consult with your healthcare professionals if it's appropriate for you, and all for sure. And then the nasal strip tape to help open up the nostrils. So if like you're forced breathing through your nose, it's gonna, and then the nasal strip on top of that, it's gonna help enhance. I've heard great things about that stuff.
Yeah, for me the biggest difference has been getting to sleep faster, and if I do wake up, getting back to sleep faster. That nasal breathing kind of works into the parasympathetic system of your nervous system, and it really allows you to kind of get into this more relaxed state.
The rest and digest state.
Exactly, versus kind of that fight or flight that your brain's all over the place. So sleep, you can deep dive this like crazy, and those 2 names I mentioned before is where I've gotten most of my advice from. But I'm telling you right now, that's like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I've heard similar stuff like that too, and I would agree. Like, we wouldn't want someone to turn in like a morning routine. It's like an hour and a half. It's like, man, this isn't gonna set. And then a nighttime routine that's an hour. Like, I got meditation, intentional breathing exercises. I'm gonna read for 30 minutes.
You lose 3 hours of your day there.
It's like, okay, this is a little bit much.
Yeah.
But incorporating a couple of these things can definitely be influential from what we've heard. For like you're saying. The other things that I've heard in addition to that play a huge role, I know for me personally, is white noise.
I do that too.
And then just a cold and super dark.
Yep.
A cool and dark white noise, nasal strip, read before, and then try to keep it as structured routine time-wise for expectations. And that can play a huge role.
Yeah, that's as spot on as you can get. Those are about the only other parts I would have mentioned. If you can get the room as dark as possible, awesome. If you don't have the ability to do that, get an eye cover. That works too.
Yeah.
You want to be, ideally, you do want it to be a cooler environment. Even if you're under a lot of covers, 67, 68 is usually where I'm at, which is pretty chilly.
Yeah, that's chilly.
It's pretty cold, yeah. And then...
There's no way my wife could do that.
No,
she runs cold. I run hot. I'm sure you run hot.
I run hot.
Yeah.
I need it to be chilly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you know, if you can find, similar to what you just said, if you can kind of just dial a couple of them in, you may find that 3 of these work really well for you, and that's the difference.
Right.
So sleep is definitely the number one kind of like on the outskirts that we talk about, like the things outside the nuts and bolts as you were talking about. But yeah, that's top of the pyramid for me.
Totally agree. The feeling, I mean, if I get better quality sleep, I definitely feel way better and more rested and more alert and mental clarity the next day. A lack thereof over 2 to 3 nights in a row of like 6.5 hours. I know my sweet spot's like 8 to 8.5. It's like, man, I got it. I was unfortunately scrolling, right? Thing came up and was like, you're really tired. You don't really get enough sleep. Have you considered going to bed 8.5 hours before you need to wake up? It's like, absolutely not doing that. That's ridiculous, absurd.
I'll just pray for more hours in the day when I go to wake up.
In the morning, I'll just wake up resentful and like, I want 30 more minutes. Literally. I'm not going to bed early. No, but getting to bed earlier is the game changer. Yeah. And then reading ahead of time. But being really militant with that, I've definitely noticed a big difference in the mental clarity and the lack thereof. I'm getting like 3 nights in a row of 6.5, 6 hours. It stacks up.
You feel it, man.
Unfortunately, with new moms and dads, with young kids, like things happen and they wake up, and of course you have to navigate that as best as you can. But at least you can set yourself up for success and get the best quality you can.
Exactly.
The next thing I was going to mention for our industry, like with pain and recovery, rehab and stuff, when people sleep position, it's postures. It's just positioning. Yeah, can definitely set the stage for stuff to get lit up and jacked up during the night. And we hear it all the time. People are like, my back hurts for no reason. I woke up the next day and my back hurt. I woke up just going to work. I didn't do anything. I'm like, well, let's walk through this. Like there's like musculoskeletal wise, like for joint issues and stuff, ruling out systemic issues. Things don't hurt for no reason. Yeah. Like rotator cuff, shoulder, low back, all that stuff. Right. I think if it's neuromusculoskeletal related, ruling out systemic stuff, things don't hurt for no reason. There's something being done throughout the day, postures, sitting, workout choices, like whatever, that are lighting it up. Yep. So with that being said, that means we can control that stuff. We just have to identify what it is in the first place. And then we can work to fix that thing, right? Yep. And incorporate some changes. But sleep position and posture is one of the number one things we talk about first with our patients. And a lack of quality sleep, right, for health and longevity for sure is not going to help. But positioning is also going to light up joint structures and neural structures. And the most common thing we hear for low back is stomach sleeping and mountain climber positioning, or just over rotated, right? Yep. So a solution, like try like a thick, like not like a thin pillow, but like a couch cushion type size pillow between your knees and your ankles, and it helps prevent someone from rolling over too far or into the mountain climber position or on their stomach. And keeping these a little more neutral. But someone wakes up and they're like, my back hurts and my hamstring is tight or my glute is tight. It's like, it's not your glute. It's most likely, if we're working with them, we know it's like a neural structure that's just lit up and sending signals down the leg and down the chain. But it's because of the position they were in for 8 hours or 6 hours. It's like, try this. You have to believe me, because we do this all the time. Because I've heard I've had a lot of resistance from this. Like, I'm not going to change the way I sleep. Yeah. I've been sleeping like this for 30 years. Like, who are you going to tell me? Where'd you go to school? What'd you do? And I'm like, whoa, man, I'm just trying to shed some light and suggestions. I'm trying to help you. I've gotten some interesting resistance from that. Wow. Yeah. Like, who do you think you are trying to change my sleep? And I'm like, I'm not trying to change anything, man. I'm trying to help make some suggestions. But it plays a huge role. Yeah. Anyway, we convey this to our patients. Like, we put so much weight on sleeping position that we're going to tell you, don't even come back to see us. until you fix your sleeping posture. Because if you keep effing it up every night, we're going to hit a ceiling. And it's going to be frustrating for everybody.
Yeah.
We're going to do a bunch of cool stuff, manual therapy, get things feeling better, joint mobility, work on core stability and glute strength for sure.
Yep.
But if you F it up every night, for every 6 hours, we're going to hit a ceiling and it's going to be frustrating and it's going to be stalemate. So
100%.
fix that first and then come back. And they're like, wow, okay, yeah, I didn't know that. You know,
Yeah.
It's like, dude, we put a lot of weight on that.
I was that person. I mean, I wasn't resistant like that, but I mean, for a long time I suffered from back pain and I couldn't figure out why. And I was a stomach sleeper.
Yeah, because we talked about that when you came in with us. Yeah.
Yeah, we 100% talked about that. It was actually one of the
sleeping
first
is a game
things we mentioned because I started coming to you because of my low back. And I was a stomach sleeper. I was constantly one of those over-rotated people, and I started using the pillow between the knees. I still do.
Yeah.
That's a game changer for me. And then I'm not sure everybody's as psychotic as I might be, but I can literally sleep on my back with my arms crossed.
Oh, nice. Like Dracula.
Yeah, a little bit.
I have it, which is totally normal. Like I have a mentor that he was funny. He played football in college, sports and stuff back in the day. So he's banged up. He's like in his mid 40s at this point, but he was like, who here at this point has slept with a weighted blanket like I do?
Oh, I did that.
And I'm like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, I sleep with a weighted blanket like Dracula. And I literally don't move like all night. I might shift a little bit, I don't get a bed ulcer or something.
Yep.
But he's like, I sleep like Dracula and I feel a lot better.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, wow, that's intense.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet, but maybe in 10 years, hopefully not in 10 years. I'm not going to get to that point.
Let's give you a little bit more.
Yeah,
than that.
exactly. But yeah, totally. It just keeps you a little bit more locked into a position.
Yeah.
That's not going to light it up.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's just things to check out and investigate for yourselves, for all the listeners out there.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what else? So outside the nuts and bolts of like what's the best workout, right? Chest, back, push, pull, legs and shoulders, four sets of 8, whatever. Okay, we know that we can get into that stuff.
Yeah.
Outside of that, to enhance performance and improvements and stuff, we got sleep, nutrition for sure.
Yeah, you could talk about like cold exposure or heat exposure as well.
Yeah.
Is another one.
Okay, we'll get into that. First, nutrition.
Yeah.
You were mentioning you have some clients that are like, yeah, I'm really going to get into this. I want body transformation, really enhance. I completely took out carbs.
Yeah.
High five?
No.
No.
I'll preface by saying this. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's your body. But I don't prescribe to the fad diets. And I get a little kickback every now and then, certainly from my clients, but also from other people here and there in the industry. But for me, I follow the 80-20 rule, and I probably mentioned the 80-20 rule last time, but I'll dive into it a little bit more. From a nutritional aspect, my belief is, you hear the phrase all the time, it's all about balance. I do think there's an aspect to it. If you are super militant about what you're eating, that is such a big role in our lives. We are spending time around our family and our friends when we eat. It's something that brings us a lot of joy. If you're being very militant with it, it can end up bringing you a lot of stress, and it can take away from that joy of life. And so I often tell people, follow the 80-20 rule. If you're good, not amazing, but just good for 80% of the time, and then for the other 20%, you have your little moments of, I'm going to have a pizza night, I'm going to have a slice of cake. As long as you don't fall off the wagon doing that, like, you can enjoy your life and you can enjoy those moments where you get to celebrate with friends, or you get to relax and just kind of pig out, as long as it doesn't become a habit. But my big fight against the fad diets is that in nature, they are so extreme. You hear about the ones where it's no carbs. You hear about the keto diet, the carnivore diet, all of these different fad diets that give people these extreme changes and outcomes. The problem is not that you're not going to see the changes. The problem is that, will they stay? These diets are so extreme that they're almost impossible to maintain for long periods of time. We want lifestyle changes, things that can be maintained and can be made consistent in your life for the foreseeable future. So I'm more of the, I play around with the percentages of macros. Let's figure out if, you need to be at 15% fat or 25% fat if you're going to be willing to count your calories. And if you're not willing to do that, then it's just about finding meals that can be consistently in your life, 5 to 10 meals that can kind of be your go-tos,
Right.
that are well balanced, versus this idea of, I'm just not going to eat carbs. For those of you who don't necessarily understand maybe the bioenergetics of fitness, carbohydrates end up becoming glycogen in your body, and that is your number one form of energy. It's your most optimal,
Easily accessible.
and your most easily accessible. So yes, there's a period of time where you can adjust when you get into the ketogenic state where fats do become your number one source, but that's not easy to get there. It's about a 2-week period where you're shifting away. But if you just on a whim remove these carbohydrates and then think you can go about your life the way you were,
Right. Or train harder.
Yeah,
You're going to hit a wall.
You're going to hit a hard wall. And we don't need to get into the details of what that means. It might not just be being tired. You might hit a spell of overtraining. You might really kind of do a number on your neurological system that you need to take a longer break than you thought now. So, so to kind of wrap that up, my things that I kind of tell people to run towards is whole foods. If you can get your nutritional value from real food, you want to. I understand some people like to supplement protein. I do it in the form of whey protein. Some people do it in plant protein. It's fine if your goals are to get more protein in, but if you have the ability to do it through real food, always go the route of getting your nutrition from real food. One of the other things that I try to tell people is stay away from these processed foods, the high sugars, added sugars, the highly processed foods. Obviously now everybody's really big on the seed oils, staying away from that because they seem to be creating large inflammatory markers. But avoid your alcohol, all that kind of stuff. If you're really trying to make a big change, you cut out the messy stuff, and then just honestly, it's the easiest way to just turn and run towards the real food. One of the pieces of advice that a lot of nutritionists tell me when I talk to them is tell your clients to shop on the outside of the grocery store. Mm-hmm. On the outside of the grocery store is where you will find almost all the unprocessed goods. Yeah. And in those aisles is where you're going to find a lot of the stuff that's going to have the additives, the preservatives, the artificial colorings, flavors, all of that stuff.
Yeah. There was something in my, guilty. Part of my 20. Part of my 80-20. This is part of my 20. The cheddar Chex Mix. They're good.
Yeah.
Gosh,
they're
really
really
good. They're good. They were a BOGO. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Got them. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do the disservice to I'm going to look at the ingredient list. Man, it was that long.
Yep.
I don't know, I had to be a chemist, degree to read that stuff.
Even if you did.
And I was like, man, this is not ideal,
No, the rule of thumb is if you are looking at the back, and this might scare some people, so I don't always advise it, but if you really are willing to kind of take a look at your nutrition in a very deep manner, check out the ingredient list, and then start counting how many of them you can pronounce.
Yeah, that's not.
And it's if it's outnumbered by how many you can pronounce, you're looking at
a lot of processed stuff.
A lot of processed stuff, and some of them just don't sound bad. You think to yourself, "Oh, palm oil, okay, that doesn't sound bad." But what we're realizing, and I'm using seed oils as the example here, but what we're realizing with these seed oils that are extracted from things that maybe don't sound harmful is that they're affecting your hormones. They're creating inflammation that for a lot of us is already existing there because we're pushing ourselves in our workouts, or maybe we're not getting great sleep.
Yeah.
So you're starting to compound these things.
It's just a constant state of inflammation and not letting recovery. It makes total sense.
Yeah.
With the extremism, like you were saying, it makes total sense. We wouldn't want, and this is something we tell our patients too, we don't want good intentions and enthusiasm to turn into more of a problem of overuse, right? If someone's not ready yet to run and jump from a knee injury or something, it's we'll get there, but we got to build up appropriately and progress, building a good foundation.
Yep.
But anyway, the good intentions and enthusiasm that lead to an overuse injury or overuse problem or a chronic extremism of fad diets and then fad and in and out. And personally, what I've noticed for myself and other people with similar stories that I've heard from them when they're like, yeah, it's not, whatever, they're in a different state at this point from weaning in and out of this extremism diet. It just leads to binging.
Yeah.
The deprivation just leads to binging. And the first time I really was like, I'm going to go hardcore with this stuff, I was like 3 days of trying to really change my nutritional plans. Man, day 3, Taco Bell.
Yep.
Yeah. But anyway, it seems like the deprivation leads to binging. So it's like wean into an 80-20, dabble in some things that you enjoy, that to stimulate habit changes, lifestyle habits. That's the ultimate goal that will be consistent for many, many, many years. And that's what the research is suggesting, I guess, for both of us. We read it's like that's the best route to have the best longevity for life and health.
Yeah. And I said this on the last podcast. You don't need to be perfect.
Yeah.
You really don't. You just have to make little changes. And I'm not telling you to not buy a single thing that has palm oil in it.
Yeah.
No, like you're going to have...
Glycolytic lysate yellow 5.
Yeah. You're going to run into these things. But if you can limit how much exposure you're getting to it, it's going to go a very long way. But
it's a little mindfulness.
Yeah, mindfulness is more than being aware of it, is more what we're looking for. But yeah, you're 100% correct. If you jump into any of this stuff, even the stuff I'm telling you about right now that's a little bit easier and it's not so extreme, but if you just go cold turkey and do it, that is an extreme version of it. You need to slowly make it become routine, and you have to stick with it long enough for it to become habitual. And it's really hard to stick to something that's incredibly extreme. So find smaller goals to hit, find more realistic goals to reach.
Yeah.
And you take those baby steps, and before you know it, you're 6 months in, and
making headway.
You've made incredible headway.
Yeah. We talked about the last time, and I was going to bring, because the goal setting and accountability, right? We're talking about this last time.
Yep.
And that's like weaning into it, right? Dabbling into stuff that you like to create habit, lifestyle changes and stuff. The best way to maintain that and to stay 6 months in is, according to the research, right, having an accountability partner or someone that's going to be a coach that's holding you accountable. You know, like I know on Monday I'm going to have a talk with this coach that I have or my trainer, and they're going to be like, so, how was the palm oil services time? It's like, oh, well, I did, or like, oh, this time I resisted. Hey, high five, man. Good job.
Yeah.
And then goal setting, writing it down legitimately, right?
Yep.
So we talk about SMART goals, the acronym SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely.
There we go.
That's what the SMART acronym meant. And last time we were going to bring that up.
Yeah, we were so stuck.
But I was like, gosh, dang it. I felt so, man, it was not good. But anyway, so specific goals, right? What specific as possible? Are they actually measurable, like somewhat objective? Are they attainable, right?
Yep.
Like not like 1% body fat. Realistic, same thing. Is it actually realistic to do that? And then timely, like what's the time frame that you want to achieve that specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and goal, right?
Yeah.
I think that considering those things and mindfulness of setting goals with an accountability partner or a coach or some sort, that seems to be the best route to actually achieving what you're looking for.
Yeah, 100%. And there's plenty of people out there that are trying to do the same thing that I'm trying to do or you're trying to do. And you just got to find them. You got to find the right input. And kind of, it may mean that you have to sometimes remove yourself from the situations where people are going to go binge drink or they're going to go house a 6-pack of Krispy Kreme donuts. You kind of have to remove yourself here and there. But
Krispy Kreme is so good.
Oh, they're so good. But it's kind of just putting the effort towards understanding what you're really trying to achieve and then using those markers. And we can sit there. The acronym, there's like 3 or 4 of those that kind of mean the same thing.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, like you think about it like you're thinking about measurable, attainable, realistic. Like all 3 of those kind of mesh together because none of them can be there without the other.
Right.
Right? If it's not measurable, it's probably not attainable.
Right.
And if it's not attainable, it's probably not realistic.
Yeah.
So
and you're not going to reach it in time.
yes, and you're not going to reach it in time. And the timely part is to me, that's the easiest one, because everybody's going to sit here and be like, "Well, I can't start my diet. We're about to go into Thanksgiving and then Christmas, and I'm going to eat like crazy." Okay, there's never going to be the perfect time.
Right. That's what I've heard for sure. For a lot of things. Starting a business, having kids, from a lot of mentors who are much wiser than myself that I try to heed advice from on those major life things. Like, there's never a good time. You're never ready. You just do it, and then you just make it happen.
Exactly.
So just pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Ride the bullet. For some things.
For some things.
But that's funny, man. It's interesting. Okay, so the diet coming into the holidays, right? And the 80-20 rule. Something that I heard recently that I was like, that makes total sense, right? Because I'm in this boat sometimes too, is just having some self-compassion of like, yo, it's okay. It's all right. You don't have to, like, just because you did bad one time that you said you weren't going to, it's going to happen. But you don't have to just go off the deep end and just bail completely. Like, well, this whole week is effed.
Yep.
Because I had a beer on Wednesday,
Yep.
It's like, no, it's not. Just relax, all right? Give yourself some self-compassion and just course correct. And give yourself a high five and it's okay,
Yeah, compliance is the number one reason that people fall off their goals and their diets and their programs or whatever it is compliance.
It's like everything's shot now.
Yeah,
shot. I
slipped up, and this is one of the reasons why I'm not taking a shot at anybody that does 75 hard or pushes people to do it. I think it's an awesome mental challenge and physical challenge. But my issue with 75 hard is that it's not easy to comply with. You got to drink a gallon of water.
That's a lot.
I've got to do two workouts a day. One of them has to be outside. I got to read 10 pages of a book. None of those things individually are particularly hard to do, but when you mesh them into somebody's day that may be incredibly stressful already,
right.
It becomes very difficult. And again, it's not to say that you can't do it. I'm not telling anybody here you can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm saying find a route that's more easily compliable
and manageable for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. I can stick to this. I can make this work. And then, like you said, have some grace for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you slipped
That's the
up.
toughest one for me.
Yeah, of course it is, because I think people that tend to be a little bit more disciplined are usually their own harshest critic. Yeah. And so we're going to be the first ones to jump on our own errors and mistakes and kind of misguided moments.
Right.
But you have to turn inward and kind of say, okay, instead of letting this become an emotional reaction and I got to completely change it, I've got to remove that completely, I shouldn't have done that. Yeah. Just take a step back and say, all right, I start back again on it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And my issue with 75 hard is if you forget to take a selfie one night because you had a busy day, you start from day one again. So
start over. Like I have a goal of doing 75-day hard at some point.
Yeah.
And just even thinking about this right now, I'm like, maybe I'll do 30 hard instead of 75. I'll wean into it, And it just.
I call it 75 medium.
That's good. I like that.
So I did do something like it recently. I actually think I still have a few days left, but my goals to be met were different. I kind of scratched those and made my own. For me, it was a protein intake number that I wanted to hit every day.
Okay.
For me, it was also cold exposure, deliberate cold exposure every single day, whether that was a cold shower, cryotherapy, or my cold plunge. It was listen to 30 minutes of an informative podcast or read 10 pages of a book. I promise it doesn't take me 10 or 30 minutes to read 10 pages, but I thought that was like a good trade-off. And then I didn't say do 2 workouts. I said challenge myself physically every day, whether it's a workout, whether it's trying something new, playing a sport. I just, if you kind of loosen up the grip a little bit of that program, you can make it way more compliable. You can also make it really fun.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the route that people should look at going to versus these extreme, off a cliff, like you're going to go crazy kind of programs.
And I would imagine, like, for those specific people, because I can imagine the right demographic for that would be people that's like not super into fitness. They're like thinking about delving into more lifestyle changes. Those are the people that I would definitely recommend, like, go 30 medium, versus 75 hard.
Yeah,
you know, because it's just gonna it's gonna be really challenging. You know,
Very much so,
And then just like there's a lot of negative self-talk, right? Or just calling yourself a failure. That's like I said, that's the number one thing I probably battle with myself the most.
Same.
It's just the negative self-talk and the like, well, I'm such a baby. You know, I can't do all that stuff.
Yep.
And just having a little self-grace and understand and being okay with it.
Yep.
And the a podcast recently with Mary Tatum that I had on, right? She's a mental health professional. She said something interesting that I was like, that makes total sense too. You know, negative self-talk, you allow the prosecutor in any trial, you have a defense attorney and a prosecutor.
Mm-hmm.
The prosecutor, negative self-talk, we do it all the time. Prosecutor is going ham, right? But you also have to let the defense attorney talk too. And what would they say in your benefit, right?
Yep.
Like, okay, we heard you. Let's crumple that up, throw it away. We got it. But what would the defense attorney say also? And they would probably say some positive things, right? Oh, okay, take a little bit of both, right? And I really appreciated that. And I was like, okay, whatever have some negative self-talk, we had that chance. Now let's let the defense attorney talk to, and what would they say on your benefit? And I was like, I like that.
Yeah,
You know?
it's one of my biggest things I'm working on as well. Is I mean, I told you a long time ago I started going to therapy, and I go once every 2 weeks now, and I love my therapist. She has changed my life. But one of the things that I realized was I wasn't giving myself that grace. I wasn't kind of shutting down that negative talk. Or that negative version of myself that's kind of sitting in your head, and it's not like you're just gonna flip a switch and like shut it off.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen. You have to figure out ways to manage it and be able to turn the mirror, as she says, inward, and kind of see your own reflection and be able to say like, oh, you know what? Like I can give myself this moment. I can give myself some grace. I can defend myself. You know, and so I think that's really well put by her.
I really liked that. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the cold exposure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Oh, I'm excited to talk about this. So
It's really trendy right now.
It is very trendy, and I 100% drink the Kool-Aid. I'm not going to sit.
I kind of do too. I mean, like, not crazy. I want to get like something, but anyway, I like it.
Yeah.
And in college, during 2 days and stuff, be banged up.
You know,
I would feel like $1 million afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And the next day, like, I feel great. You know, the science is somewhat conflicted about it.
It is.
For sure. Does it actually decrease inflammation? Does it actually lower the edema in your joints? The research would suggest not really.
Yeah.
But you can't explain it. You feel way better and invigorated. But anyway, what are your thoughts on it?
I was exactly where I was going with it. So when I went to my master's program, I remember I had a pretty clean set of ideas on like what was the best way to recover, whether it was hopping in some like Normatec boots, like compression boots, or hitting the sauna, or foam rolling, or getting in an ice tub. And you have these ideas of like, oh, this one's got to be better, this one's got to be worse. The studies kind of say that almost all of it is even keel.
Yeah.
And so I completely prescribe to the idea that if one of those outlets provides for you this incredible placebo effect, and you feel a difference,
right?
You as an individual, go for it.
It's real. I mean, like,
then it's real.
Yeah.
The placebo effect is not to say that you're going crazy and your mind is telling you something that's not happening. The placebo effect has a profound, like, there's actual measurable changes to it that can happen.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy to think about, like the power of the mind. Like, this mind, like Wim Hof, you know?
Yes. Yep.
It's crazy.
And his method is insane. I did it for a little bit.
Oh, really?
It's intense, but it's a lot of it is going back to some basic ideas, just breathing, kind of getting your mind away from the stresses that you're constantly thinking about by focusing on the breath, by focusing on the movement, by focusing on what you're feeling in your body. And then obviously his big thing is cold exposure.
Yeah.
It's huge.
He's the Iceman.
He's the Iceman. And
he was like submerged or in ice
in a lake,
and his body temperature rose.
Yeah.
That's physically impossible.
Yeah, he's crazy. But he also has this like insane, I didn't dive into this, but he's got this insane belief that you can do breathing methods in cold exposure, and you can get to a point where your mental resiliency becomes so intuitive that you can stop yourself from being sick. Now, I'm not going to give any merit to that, but it just goes to show that you can put your mind to a lot of things and have some pretty profound effects. So for me, I cold plunge every morning. If I can't cold plunge, I take a hot shower and I end with at least 2 to 3 minutes of as cold as my shower will get. The things that I gain from it, for me, I see them in 3 ways. I do believe that I feel less inflammation in my body from the cold plunge. I do think that I have much more resiliency to uncomfortable and cold environments. And I actually have proof of that as of yesterday. And then for me, the last thing is the resilience, the mental resilience. So for me, it's the fortitude that you get from it. The confidence that you can handle anything. The confidence that you can do something tough and come out the other side and be better for it. And so I
agree.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think everybody, I talked about this on the last podcast, but everybody should be doing something difficult because life is not easy. And the more difficult things you do deliberately, the easier you are able to handle the tough things in life that you're not expecting. And so for me, cold exposure using the cold plunge has been phenomenal because not only do I feel invigorated when I get out of it every morning, but I think I know for a fact I sleep better at night. My joints feel better, but if I can do that, if I can sit in a tub of water at 6 a.m. for 3 minutes at 44 degrees.
It's really cold.
Yeah. It's so cold. If I can do that, I can do a lot of other tough things that I don't necessarily want to do that day. In terms of the resilience to cold exposure, I jumped in the cryotherapy at MedHouse yesterday, and I hadn't been in it since I had started cold plunging, and I did the highest level, which I believe was negative 150 degrees.
The double black diamond?
For 3 minutes and 30 seconds. I could have sat in that thing I felt completely different. I could have sat in that thing for 6-7 minutes. I was completely under control, never felt like I needed to get out. So I think the point of all of this is whether you want to start using a sauna, which has been shown to have some pretty cool effects as well with decreasing your risk of cardiovascular disease, or issues in general related to cardiovascular system. You also have some metrics that refer to better recovery, better sleep, all these things. So whether it's a sauna, cold exposure, foam rolling, play around with all of them. Maybe it's bouncing between a steam room and the cold plunge for, some, thermotherapy or whatever it is, whatever they call it. But my point is find the one that works for you. And
that you see the most benefit from.
And
totally.
It may just be in your head.
Yeah.
But
what's more, so I have a thought on that, right? I was like, I'm thinking about this stuff. It's like, oh, it's just all, you think you can get more confidence or like you get more mental resiliency. What is more important than managing day-to-day, your life, right? Trajectory, decisions, life resiliency, right? Stress management. Like it is your mental component. It is the mental capacity. Like the mental health and confidence, right, is the number one determining factor for high level performers and success or failure, right?
Yeah.
And it's very similar to that, like analogous to like Michael Jordan, LeBron, right? It's Kobe Bryant, whatever. They're definitely super athletic. Mm-hmm. But there's no way that other NBA players aren't just or more athletic than they are.
Yeah.
So is it just pure athletic talent that is going to yield like the best results of being the GOAT? Like Tom Brady is a clear example.
Yep.
Then what's the separating factor?
It's mentality.
It's the mental game.
Yep.
100%. All right. So if we can leverage that on purpose, knowing that that's the most important factor, the most impactful factor that's going to determine a lot of trajectory changes in like life decisions and stuff, is the confidence. It's confidence.
Yep.
And then the mental clarity and resiliency to managing stresses and things that come. So that's like literally the most important component that we can leverage and work on that on purpose. What's a great way to leverage and work on that on purpose? Putting yourself through sucky things, like cold exposure. Like, can you get in this cold plunge for 60 seconds at like 50 degrees, which is really cold still, right? 44 for veterans like yourself. That's only going to enhance that, right? Or a workout, right? Like a very, very intense workout that's going to create benefits, changes for your body as physically as well, not just mentally. Mm-hmm. All that stuff, it could only enhance the mental component.
Yeah. And I think like if I were to sum up what we've talked about today, it would be the mental strength, the mental resiliency. Like everything that we've kind of mentioned was with nutrition, it was talking about being aware. So bringing awareness to the things that you're putting into your body or that you're exposing your body to. For the cold plunge, it's challenging that mental fortitude and seeing if you can push yourself through uncomfortable places. And then when you talk about mental health, that we talked about it for a short period of time, but whether it's journaling, going to a therapist, talking with your friends, working on reflecting inward, all of this stuff comes back to one thing, which is your mental game. Like, what is because listen, you could have the best body, but that thing don't move without the neurological signals from your brain. So
true.
you need to make sure that you are working on your mental fortitude, strength, resiliency, whatever you want to call it, in all these different manners by challenging yourself, making yourself more aware, bringing mindfulness to everyday life. But yeah, that's what, for me, the cold plunge goes beyond the effects of like, oh, you're getting more brown fat and so you're going to be leaner or you're going to reduce inflammation. Yeah. Do I hope that those effects happen?
Yeah.
Be awesome.
Yeah.
But the number one reason I do that is because I know if I can get in a cold plunge every morning for 3 minutes at a temperature that I don't want to go in. And let me tell you guys, every day, regardless of how long I've done it, when those feet get in there for the first time, I want to get right back out. But it
sucks.
It's pushing yourself in that manner that can make the biggest stride, in my opinion.
I totally agree. Okay, before we wrap this up, supplements. There's a ton of stuff, right? Ton of supplements and stuff. One thing that I know that I recommend for a lot of active people, there's a lot of benefits. It's like the magical supplement. It's creatine, creatine monohydrate. There's a lot of. It's probably the most well-studied supplement.
It is
across the board, and there's a lot of great benefits that come from it. There's cognitive benefits that they were giving it. That when I was reading a study, they were giving triple the amount of recommended dose to babies, infants, for development, and it was safe. Number one, it was safe, but it helps with cognitive development. So then for like elderly patients with Alzheimer's or cognitive decline, same kind of thought. Or MMA athletes that are taking a lot of head trauma, football players, the same thing. It could be cognitive resiliency and cognitive benefits.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, which is crazy.
I knew there were cognitive benefits, but I didn't know, I hadn't read into those studies. That's pretty cool. Creatine's the number one. If anybody ever asks me what supplements should I take, there are other supplements that I have taken and do take outside of creatine, but very rarely will I recommend them unless someone has specific goals. But creatine is one of those that everybody can benefit from having, especially if you're someone that's training. Outside of the cognitive stuff, I think one of the biggest benefits of taking creatine is an increase in the CP system, the creatine phosphate system that is used for your more intense, shorter duration work. Right. Which it's that energy system is always going to be brought into play, whether you're doing something that's incredibly short and intense or you're doing something that's longer. At some point, it will play a role. But when you take 5 grams a day of creatine, which is a pretty standard, simple amount to follow, you don't really need to go any more than that. You are going to see changes in that system's recovery, that system's output, the duration that system can work at, and that will result in greater strength gains. It can result in more muscle mass. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you that one of the benefits of creatine is you're going to get bigger muscles just by taking creatine.
It's still going to put the work in.
It is a supplement. It supplements work that you're doing, and so it helps boost your ability to do something. But it is an awesome supplement. It is by far and away the most researched and probed supplement out there. I mean, we're talking thousands and thousands of studies done on it, and it is bioavailable. It's bioavailable. You can get it in red meats. So you are getting it if you're eating red meat in general, and your body does use it on a daily basis. So it's one of those ones that I often recommend. The only other supplement that I'll recommend is the supplemental protein, especially for those who want to lose weight but hold on to muscle mass, or those that want to gain muscle mass or just general strength. Supplemental protein is an easy way to get your protein levels up. You don't need it. Like I said, if you can go real food, fantastic. But if you're kind of getting stuck on eating a lot of chicken or eating a lot of other meats or getting your protein sources from plant sources, if you're kind of hitting the wall, a protein supplement's great, regardless of where it's coming from, plant protein or whey protein or casein, whatever. Those are the two that
same.
you can kind of go right with.
With the protein from what I've read, and you tell me if you've heard similar things. A high protein diet for people, protein is not very well utilized or accessed in your body. It's not digested easily, whereas like sugar is.
Yes.
Right. So then it's not really stored well if you have an excess amount of it. But there's a ton of studies that I've come across where a high protein diet, which they suggest is 2 grams per kilogram of body weight.
Yeah.
So if somebody weighs 100 kilograms, which is like 220 pounds.
Yeah.
That's a ton of protein, right?
It is, yeah.
So that's 200 grams of protein a day, right?
Yeah.
Which is a lot. You have to have 5 meals.
That's what I try to ingest, and I'm not 220 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my protein goal. Yeah.
That's great. Well, anyway, so 200 grams a day. That's 100 grams by lunch, and then 100 grams post lunch.
Yeah.
So if you split that up into 4 meals, that's 50 grams of protein per meal.
Yeah,
that's tough, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, man, when I was training a ton and trying to put on a lot of weight, like in football and everything, like I just felt full all the time. It sucked. But anyway, a high protein diet like that, protein's not utilized very well in the body or processed. So it allows your body to not have to store excess as much. And then it enhances the bioavailability of protein for protein synthesis to help muscle growth.
Yep.
Combine that with creatine as a fuel injector. It's going to help enhance muscle growth.
Yeah.
And then the bioavailability, it creates more of a thermic metabolic state in your body. So you're always kind of churning the protein to keep it going. So your metabolism is running higher all the time. And then as you get bigger muscles from working out, there's more required effort to maintain that size.
So you're just a calorie burning machine.
More thermic and calorie burning just without doing anything.
Yep.
Hormozy put it as like, once you get to a certain state, your body's like passive income, right?
Yep.
Like you don't have to do as much to maintain it if you have a more muscular state, which is a benefit, right? So we can leverage having a ton of protein on purpose to make it super inefficient for your body to process, and then more bioavailability, and then a higher density of muscle tissue, skeletal muscle. It's just going to create more metabolic thermal state, and you're going to be it's easier to stay leaner that way.
Yeah. And I know we need to wrap up soon, but I'll just piggyback off that.
Yeah.
Protein for a long time, it was considered one of those villains, kind of like where carbohydrates is at right now. A lot of people said, oh, if you ingest too much protein, your kidneys aren't going to be able to handle it.
Yeah.
We're figuring out it's really not the case.
Not the case.
If you're getting protein
with creatine.
Yeah, exactly. Creatine for a while there was villainized as well. If you ingest too much, you're going to see failures in different organs. The fact of the matter is we're finding out that protein is one of the best, if not the best macronutrient that people are missing in their diets. And those of you who are trying to lose weight, you need to hold on to as much muscle mass as you can. So that means you should be ingesting
a ton of protein
for 2 reasons. 1, it's going to help you maintain the muscle mass and not lose it. But 2, it's actually going to satiate you. The reason that you felt full is that protein is not so easily digestible. And so it does satiate you. There's studies that show that. And so if you're kind of like, man, I'm just constantly hungry, even though I'm trying to lose weight, increase your protein intake.
Try eating 50 grams of protein 4 times a day. It's like, another one of these? Gosh, dang it, man.
I would love that. That's why I'm doing it. I love it.
Yeah.
Like, give me 4 steaks in a day.
That's different. But yeah, so interesting people. The first thing here is like, well, I don't want to hurt my kidneys or my liver. There's a lot of studies. There's no increased enzyme markers for liver or kidney enzymes. And the same thing with creatine, where they're like tripling the dose for
babies.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But for trained individuals doing strength training and whatever, they're also tripling the dose for them for a period of 2 years. And then taking measurements, and they didn't have increased markers of kidney or liver enzymes.
That's amazing.
Which otherwise, like for stress, right?
Yeah.
Which is, I'm like, okay, well then there you go, right? Like we can only go off of the information and empirical evidence we have for decision making and stuff. But I'm like, that's pretty profound.
Yeah, 2 years.
And there's systematic reviews of covering all these randomized controlled trials over that, and it's suggesting the same thing. I'm like, okay, then this is pretty safe.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm not going to get to my kids yet, No. Like, honey, we're going to get them jacked. Like, not yet. But anyway, that's super interesting and cool stuff.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. We'll have to we'll link up again and get another podcast in soon and continue these conversations. This is awesome. And I think we want suggestions from you guys. Like if you have questions, comments, concerns, or other things y'all want to talk about, we're always open to things. Shoot me an email, shoot Taylor a DM or an email.
Yep.
But remind them again where they can find you.
Yeah. So first and foremost, if you want to find me in person, I'm usually at One Fitness, 505 Belvedere Road, West Palm Beach, Florida. But if you're looking for me on social media, it's going to be at Snook, SNOOK. My page is public, so you can follow me on there for anything I post on there. But if you're interested with any questions or reaching out for training or anything, just shoot me a DM, and I'm happy to help you guys out.
Cool, that's awesome. And if you have any questions for us, you can find us at Athlete Restoration Co. on Instagram or athleterestorationcompany.com for our website, or shoot us an email at team@athleterc.com. We always want to help answer questions to help people. But thanks, man. We'll get it in soon.
Absolutely.
We'll catch y'all next time. Hey, hold up. As you know, we're a small local practice, and we don't run any ads or sell anything on this podcast, but it would mean the world if you could share, write a post, or word of mouth recommendation for somebody just like you that's athletic and active that wants to live their dynamic lifestyle, and pay some good karma and pay it forward to somebody else just like you. And who knows, you could change their world, and a 10-second review could be that avenue.